Welcome, age of vintage society. He was the poor man's Mickey Rooney. Donald O'Connor had a great charm that disarmed the audience. His affable, fast-talking style and smart guy persona won the audience over multiple times. Universal Studios looked for an alternative to MGM's Mickey Rooney, and they got it in Donald. However, they managed to waste his potential, but Donald's talent wasn't one that incompetence could destroy. While he may not have reached the most incredible heights, he is up there with the gods of cinema. How Donald O'Connor outshone Mickey Rooney and survived Hollywood's stereotyping. Hollywood has an obsession with actors that look like a child. The industry didn't want them to grow old and would love to stereotype them as perpetual youth. At first the stars don't mind, but eventually they get bored. They want to grow, evolve, and get better vehicles for their talent. The worst is that, in the end, Hollywood casts these actors or actresses out as soon as it feels they have outlived the stereotype. Mickey Rooney suffered from this when he was active as an actor. He looked young with his height and cherubic face, but at some point the face stopped looking young, and fat began to settle in the middle. After having a career playing teens for the better part of his 20s, Mickey found himself outside the Hollywood house, peeking from the window. But not all actors were like Mickey. Some survived the stereotype, and one of these survivors was the incredibly talented Donald O'Connor. Donald had an angelic face like Mickey, and he was supposed to be Mickey's competition. At least that was the plan when Universal Studios signed him. They wanted him to give MGM's Mickey Rooney a run for his money, but they didn't put their money where their mouth was. All they gave him were B films, which his talent carried. Well, the good thing about the films was that they gave the star the avenue to work to improve his craft. At some point Donald shot around 8 films, which Universal skillfully released to help the actor and dancer remain relevant when he took a 2-year break from acting to serve in World War II. He worked with stars like Peggy Ryan and Gloria Jean through those films. Life as an actor was good for the actor, even if he wasn't at the level he wanted, but it almost wasn't ended early for him. He was talented, no doubt, and due to his background he got exposed to dancing and had a few routines under his belt. His early experiences made him feel like he was the world's greatest dancer. It was even more impressive, especially when he had no professional training. So when he got his first movie part, Donald must have thought he had what it took to succeed in film. As it turned out, he didn't. Thankfully he got paired with the experienced Bing Crosby, a young star at the time. Bing was the one who gave Donald tips on how he could dance for the television. All Donald knew from his early life on the stage, such as the comedy, the singing, and the dancing, were relevant but had to be modified for the screen. Despite getting the necessary tips, it still wasn't easy for Donald. He suffered as he couldn't understand the routines at first. His mind had become fixed on the ones he learned while growing up, and those only required him to dance from the waist down. But O'Connor wasn't one to moan or slack. He chinned up and began to learn, not letting anything get in the way. Soon he knew how to dance from the waist up and down. He became what's known as a total dancer. As his skill as a dancer began to evolve, so did the roles he got. Rather than remain the perpetual youth, the star managed to nab some roles which allowed him to be an adult. One of such roles was the part he played in Yes Sir, That's My Baby, where his character got married to Gloria de Haven's character. Apart from getting to films where he could be an adult, Donald didn't become like Mickey because he didn't have the pride of an actor. Many actors found switching to TV a death sentence, but not Donald. He embraced everything his talent could offer him. He did radio work and switched to television when the opportunity came. His work on TV gave him an Emmy Award. He won the award due to his brilliant hosting of the show, The Colgate Comedy Hour. Donald would even have his own show titled after him. He easily switched to the stage when there weren't gigs on TV. The man came from vaudevillian roots, so the stage was his friend. He debuted on Broadway, but he had mixed success. His first performance was a disaster, but his second one simply magnificent. He also performed in Las Vegas too, at the Sahara, and he had a lot of success there. Donald was a skilled songwriter and collaborated with other writers to compose songs. Donald called himself an all-round dancer. but we'd like to think he was an all-round performer. However, to some people he was more. They think he was cursed, and with some of the unfortunate events this actor suffered growing up and in his later years, it is easy to make such a conclusion. But we will leave you to be the judge of that. Join us as we journey deep into the life of this superstar. It all began in 1925 when Donald was born in Chicago, Illinois, at the St. Elizabeth Hospital, but other reports allege that no one truly knew where and when his parents gave birth to him. It's not because his parents were careless or anything. Donald's parents were circus performers turned vaudevillians who travelled a lot, and due to this, location and dates weren't at the top of their lists. OK, maybe they were careless. Donald's parents incorporated their circus acts as part of their vaudevillian performances. His father, Edward "Chuck" O'Connor, was a strong man and an acrobat in the circus, and this led to their performances being largely acrobatic. His mother, Effie, rode horses bareback. Born to vaudevillian parents who travelled extensively, Donald didn't initially go to school. Instead, he got incorporated into the family business. Legend has it that the man could dance before he could walk, and he even confirmed this himself. He said it was a little over a year when he started dancing. He couldn't walk, so his parents would hold him up by his neck, start the music, and the actor would begin to dance. O'Connor admitted that it was something any child could do, but unlike those kids, he got paid for it. Legend also has it that Donald O'Connor could sing before he could string sentences together. How he managed to do this, well, we can't say. We suspect there has been some exaggeration to this, but the actor did say he didn't begin to sing until he was 2 years old. Added to his dancing and singing, the actor and dancer could play any instrument before he knew how to read music. O'Connor came from a large happy family of performers, but their happiness was about to go down the drain. The talented actor got into an accident when he was 2 years old. The O'Connor's act took them to Hartford, Connecticut, and while trying to cross a street in front of a theatre, Donald and his sister Arlene got hit by a car. Thankfully, 2-year-old Donald didn't lose his life in the accident, but his older sister died. Sadly, the tragedies were just beginning. After their loss, the show went on for Donald and the rest of the family. However, another tragedy brewed. Chuck, Donald's father, died on stage while performing in Brockton, Massachusetts. His death came just a few weeks after Arlene's death. The loss impacted the O'Connor family, and according to the star actor himself, the losses destroyed his childhood and haunted him right into adulthood. The losses were too much to bear for the family, especially his mum, and Donald lost his freedom as his mother smothered him and tried all she could to keep him safe. His mother banned him from crossing the street by himself and limited the dances he could do. Any dance routine that could hurt him, she didn't let him learn it. She was like a hawk, trying to always know where her son went. You see, after Donald, she had suffered 3 stillbirths and wasn't about to lose another child. What Donald's mother didn't know was that she was indeed going to lose another child. Despite the gloom over the family, they continued to perform. Even with the limitations on Donald, he performed alongside his mother and brother. The family became known as the O'Connor family, the royal family of vaudeville. Their name couldn't be more accurate. They were royalty, and they entertained different live audiences with their act. The actor enjoyed every bit of this. The thrill of performing before a live audience intoxicated him. The family took breaks from touring and stayed with Donald's uncle in Chicago. Eventually they got tired from life on the road and wanted something more permanent. They turned their sights on movies and moved to California. They performed in California, and some reports say it was at this time that Donald received an education, as he attended the Hollywood Professional School. Staying in California paid off, as the actor and his brothers got to star in the film Melody for Two, where they got a specialty number. However, the excitement of featuring in a film didn't last for long. One of his older brothers, Billy, got scarlet fever, which eventually claimed his life. Again, for the family, the show went on. Hollywood spotted Donald on one of these shows at the Motion Picture Relief Fund benefit. Paramount saw something in the actor and snapped him up immediately, offering him a contract of $250 per week. The studio immediately put their recruit to work and cast him in the musical Sing You Sinners alongside Bing Crosby and Fred MacMurray. From then on, the actor's path opened. He slowly grew to become a staple in musicals. Paramount tapped into the actor's boyish charm and acting chops rather than relying on his acrobatic dancing abilities, but eventually the studio let him go, and the O'Connors left California for the familiar, hard but strangely comforting life as a travelling vaudevillian act, although they wouldn't remain on the long trail for more than a few years. Hollywood wasn't done with Donald, and this time it was Universal that came knocking on the talented actor's door. He opened it with enthusiasm and became part of Universal's ensemble of young talents. Unlike MGM, Universal didn't commit too much financially when it came to some of its productions, but this didn't affect Donald, who continued to shine and get into the radar of other studios and talented actors. Donald had appeared in several films, and when it was time for MGM's Singin' in the Rain, the hard taskmaster Gene Kelly specifically asked that MGM loan Donald from Universal. Gene Kelly, who had a reputation for perfection and not being easily impressed, even gave the young Donald a number. Donald performed Make 'em Laugh, which was one of the most physically exhausting acts he would ever do in his career. O'Connor played a piano, played with a dummy, did backflips, ran up walls, spun on the floor in a circular motion, and even crashed through a scenery. After the performance, MGM had to take O'Connor to the hospital as he suffered from exhaustion and injuries, but it was worth it. For all his troubles, the actor won a Golden Globe, and the film gave him a positive reputation, which sent more jobs his way. Working on Singing in the Rain was a much better deal than when he was the lead in Francis, a film about a soldier who became friends with a talking mule. The film spawned a franchise that Donald later became bored of. The initial challenge of the film involved Donald acting as if the mule truly talked. He had to sell a convincing performance to the audience, but in the end it became too convincing. Donald joked that the mule ended up getting more recognition than him. When Donald left the franchise to pursue more sophisticated endeavours, Mickey Rooney had to pick up from where he left off. Mickey's reputation had massively declined, and he needed to star in any film just to get by. But Donald's reputation began to soar. After working with Gene Kelly and Debbie Reynolds in Singing in the Rain, MGM gave him another opportunity to work with Reynolds in another film. He also worked with Ethel Merman in the musical Call Me Madam. Donald had hit success, but he wasn't getting much happiness from his life away from the screen. The brilliant actor was suffering in his marriage to Gwendolyn Carter, who he got married to in 1944 and had a child with. His marriage to Gwendolyn was a turbulent one, as she took out her frustration of not getting successful as an actress on her husband. The two divorced after 9 years together, and it broke the actor, who had to get professional help after the divorce. However, Donald wasn't one to quit easily, and he didn't give up on love. He tried marriage again for the second time, and he would remain with the woman he married for the remainder of his life, having 3 children with her. His career soon mimicked his marriage. After having so much success in film and television, the actor had the misfortune of acting in the Buster Keaton story. The film was a complete flop, both financially and critically, which affected the actor's professional profile. In addition, musicals were becoming unfashionable, and studios began to stop their musical projects, which severely affected Donald. So after working with Sandra Dee and Bobby Darin in the film The Funny Feeling, his silver screen roles dried up. Even with his major career setback, tragedies kept piling up for the man. Death struck his family again. Another sibling of his, Jack, died in 1959 due to heavy drinking. Painfully, Donald picked up the habit, and it almost destroyed him. His dependency on drinks got worse, and the actor also began to take nitroglycerin pills so he could have the energy to perform. With the alcohol, pills, and athletic nature of his work, the actor had a heart attack and almost died. When he recovered, he stopped using the pills, but he wasn't ready to drop the bottle yet. He struggled with his addiction over the years. The fact that he suffered from depression and was unable to dance due to paralysis must not have helped him fight his addiction, but he eventually managed to overcome his bad habit as he checked into rehab. After he managed to overcome his addiction, Donald got a silver screen role, 15 years after his last one. Nonetheless, it wasn't that much of a triumphant return, as he got involved with some more disastrous films. However, the life of an entertainer was what Donald chose, and he remained one notwithstanding the setbacks. Nothing would stop him, not age or even failing health. He had heart surgery in 1990, but still wouldn't stop. After retiring from the screen in 1997, the star performer still continued to thrill on stage with fabulous Palm Spring Follies. In between his performances he got sick with pneumonia, and even with this he returned to the stage as soon as he got better, just to finish his performance. While Donald ended his performance in a flourish, his health wasn't flourishing. In the end his heart gave out, and the actor died from heart failure in 2003. However, through his performances and contributions to musicals, he lives on. So what do you think? Do you think Donald was cursed, or were the misfortunes he suffered regular? But speaking of unique talents, have you heard the story of Alan Ladd and the lengths studios went to replace him? Trust us, it's a Hollywood tale you won't want to miss.